Hi and welcome to this video where we're doing the mid-year book tag, and I can't wait to talk with you about all the books I've read so far this year. The first one is the best book you've read so far, and I have to say I loved reading the whole Throne of Glass series, but especially Kingdom of Ash. You know, I love a good epic fantasy, and this has everything I want in a fantasy series. We have all the different fae, witches, kingdoms colliding, we have epic magic, big battles and fighting scenes, we have so many exciting moments, found family, and a huge beautiful love story, and a lot of mystery and lore. So this whole series was one of my favorites, but from Heir of Fire and so on, those books are just amazing. And I especially liked Kingdom of Ash because I thought it was such an epic conclusion to the whole series. I've talked about it before, but I also really thought Daughter of No Worlds was an amazing series as well. I think this book is so captivating. We also have a really fierce FMC here. You see the trend. But I also think this fantasy world is also stunning and so immersive. I thought this was just your normal romantasy book, but it turns out it was more fantasy than romantasy in my opinion, but with a really strong subplot of romance, which I like so much. The MMC in this book is also one of my favorites. It's everything I like in an MMC, but also he likes gardening, he likes reading books, and he's trying to retire from war, but has to go in and help Tisana and train her. So he's a reluctant warrior with a really sad backstory, and their love story is also so amazing. Jade City was also one of my favorite series, so I have to mention that as well. Fonda is just an incredible writer, and this is an urban fantasy which everybody has to read. If you haven't read, go and pick it up. It's a bit complicated to get into, but it's so worth it. We have a family drama where we follow different siblings in a family over a generation. We have really unique martial art fighting scenes. We have really interesting magic in this urban city with Jade, which enhances your abilities, and it's just so action-packed, so emotional, and it's just amazing. The worst books I've read so far, and I would say I don't think I've read any bad books, but there were some that wasn't as good as the others and maybe not for me. And first of all, we have The Housemaid, and I thought this was fun to read. I read it over 2 nights before I saw the movie, and you can check out a video of what I thought about them here. But it felt almost like a fast fashion thriller because it's really short and you kind of expect what's going to happen, but it's a fun read, but I would say nothing more. So if you're really new to reading or reading thrillers, this could be a really good starting point, but maybe it didn't do so much for me as a reader. We also have Kissed by the Gods by Kathy Rogan, and this is the indie version which I read, and I wouldn't say anything negative about it if it wasn't going to get trad published, but I think it's already is, or it's coming out really soon, so I think it's fair to add it in this video because this wasn't a bad book either, but it wasn't a romantasy that was for me. I think it might have been too hyped up for me because I've seen so many online say this is a god tier romantasy, you have to read it, it's the best ever. So I went into this with really high expectations, and it didn't really do much for me either. I thought it was a fun read. You know, I love really well-developed worlds, and it felt like there were just 4 places they were going in between, or maybe some more, but I wanted more of the world to it really makes sense for me. I also really didn't connect with the MMC. I was actually surprised when I saw a video when people talked about this and said it's the best found family ever, and my first reaction was, what found family? Because I didn't connect so much to these characters, but many people love it, and if you're interested, I think you should give it a go because it wasn't for me, but it might be for you. The best sequel is absolutely The Ballad of Falling Dragons, and this is the second book in the Moonfall series, and I was just blown away by this series. I think this is such a strong second book, and I think it takes everything from the first book and makes it better. We get to know so much more about the world, the backstory of the characters, and the love story just develops. And we also get so much more magic and dragons. So this was such a good sequel. I can't wait for the third book, and I cried so much reading this. This is the second book in Daughter of No Worlds, or The War of Lost Hearts, and there's a twist in this one, and it was really heartbreaking. That was a twist I really did not see coming. That was just so sad. I really didn't think it would be like this. I sobbed when I read it. It was so heartbreaking, and it made this series so much more interesting and better. I also cried my eyes out reading Jade Legacy. There are so many intense scenes in this one, and it's also a really nice ending to the trilogy, and I also couldn't stop crying. This one also made me cry so much. I cry quite easily, but still it had me in tears, and I was just so emotionally invested in this book. And of course, Kingdom of Ash, I had goosebumps, I'd gasped for air, and I cried so much as well. This just has a special place in my heart forever, but it was a real emotional roller coaster. New release you want to read but haven't gotten to yet, and we have This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me. I'm really excited to get to this one soon. It sounds really interesting. It's about a woman, Maggie, who loves to read but wakes up and finds herself in one of her favorite fantasy stories, maybe like a Game of Thrones setting. I've seen so many good reviews about it, and I'm just really excited to pick this one up. I also still haven't read The Poet Empress, even though I have it here, and I am going to read it, and I've also heard so many good things about it, but I also heard it's devastating, and I haven't been in the mood to read something sad, so I'm going to pick it up, and probably soon, but I'm scared. If you have read it, please convince me in the comment field and tell me how much I'm going, because then I might stop stalling on this one, because I've heard it's really worth your time. And speaking of more anticipated books, we also have ACOTAR 6 coming this October, and I can't wait. I'm already planning my reread of ACOTAR, and I've just finished Throne of Glass, and I'm just so excited. The biggest surprise for me so far is Project Hail Mary, because I knew going into this that everybody loves this book. And when you hear about this book, it doesn't sound so very heartwarming. It's about a man who wakes up alone at a spaceship with amnesia and has to save humanity. And that doesn't sound very cozy to me, but when you read it, this is such a cozy book, which really surprised me. I just love it so much. It's really heartwarming, and it makes you feel so much. And I don't want to spoil anything more, because it's best to go in blind reading this. But please, if you haven't yet, pick it up and also watch the movie, because it was also really good. But that really caught me off guard in the best possible way. I was also really surprised by When the Moon Hatched, because I had this gem on my shelf for so long, but I didn't pick it up. You might have seen it in the background of some of my videos. But I was really not in the mood to read this, because I heard so many bad things about it, honestly. I just heard that the writing is really difficult, and the writing is really lyrical and poetic, and I'm sorry, but to me that's a really huge turn off. But I must have been on the wrong side of the internet, because it turns out that so many people love this book, and I do as well. I was extremely obsessed when I read this. I read about 140 pages per day, and that's a lot for me. So this has easily become one of my favorite series as well, and that also really surprised me, because, like I said, I wasn't really in the mood to read this before I heard about the good reviews on The Ballad of Falling Dragons. new favorite author, and I must say Fonda Lee, because I just like everything that she writes. I'm currently in the middle of Last Contract of Isako, and I also enjoy it so much as well. So she's one of my new favorites, and I will probably pick up the most of the things she writes from here on. Newest fictional crush, and that's easy because it's Khan. I think he's one of the best MMCs I've read in a long time. I just love the yearning in this book and his big soft heart. I also really love Max Antarius. I wasn't made for this. Like I said, he is just one of the best MMCs as well. The most beautiful book so far is a stage set for villains. I usually don't buy sprayed edges, but look at this book. It's really, really pretty. I think it was a fun read. If you like YA and like theater and drama, I really think you should pick it up because it has some really interesting details in it. I didn't love it as much as I wanted to. I thought it was a bit long, honestly, but I think if I read this when I was 20 and was also doing a lot of plays and amateur theater with my friends, I would have died reading this. So it wasn't for me at this stage of my life. Stage, no pun intended. But I think it's a me problem and not this book, honestly. But it's still really, really beautiful. I also really like the cover of When the Moon Hatched. I don't think the sequel is as pretty as this one, and I'm sad that it didn't stick with this style because I think the drawings are really beautiful. Books I want to read until the end of this year, and first of all, The Bone Season is something that seems really intriguing. So when I'm in the mood for a dystopian series, I'm going to pick this up. It's a bit of a bigger project, but I've heard so many good things about this series. I also have the Red Rising saga staring at me from my shelf. I have the first books in this series at home, and I'm going to read it someday. Like I said, I haven't been in the mood for sad books, and I've seen so many people cry when they read this series, but I want to pick it up soon, and if I haven't read this by New Year's, I need you to yell at me. I also really want to read The Raven Scholar. Silver Cloak is also on my list. And I have the third book, Mother of Death and Dawn, which is the final book in this trilogy at home as well. So I'm going to finish this series. So I'm just excited to be emotionally devastated this summer and fall. That was it for this time. If you can influence me in any way of which books I should pick up first, please comment down below and also tell me which book was your favorite so far this year.